Krishne paratasvato va mitho vipadyeta griha vratanam adanta gobhir vishatanta mishram Puna punascharvita charvananam Matirna Krishne paratasvato va Mitho vipadyeta grihavratanam Adanta gobhir vishatanta mishram Puna punascharvita charvananam Matirna Krishne paratasvato va Mitho vipadyeta grihavratanam Adanta gobhir vishatanta mishram Puna punascharvita charvananam. Couple of recitations from the Prabhus.
Matirna Krishna paratasvato va Krishna paratasvato Mito bibetyeta grihavartanam Adanda gobir vishatam tamishram Puna punascharvita charvananam
Mati Adanta gobir vishatam tamishram Puna punascharvita charvananam.
Vaishnavis, please.
Shri Prada Uvacha Matirna Krishna paratasvato va Nitho pipadyeta grihavratanam Adanta gobhir vishatam tamisram Puna punascharvita charvananam
Grihavratanam Adanta gobhe vishatam tamishram Puna punascha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. Prahlad Maharaj replied, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress towards hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations towards Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. Purport. In this verse, the words Matin na Krishna refer to devotional service rendered to Krishna. So-called politicians, erudite scholars, and philosophers who read Bhagavad Gita try to twist some meaning from it to suit their material purposes, but their misunderstandings of Krishna will not yield them any profit. Because such politicians, philosophers, and scholars are interested in using Bhagavad Gita as a vehicle for adjusting things materially, for them constant thought of Krishna or Krishna consciousness is impossible. as stated in Bhagavad Gita 1855, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. Only through devotional service can one understand Krishna as he is. The so-called politicians and scholars think of Krishna as fictitious. The politician says that his Krishna is different from the Krishna depicted in Bhagavad Gita. Even though he accepts Krishna and Rama as the supreme, he thinks of Rama and Krishna as impersonal because he has no idea of service to Krishna. Thus his only purpose or only business is punah punascharvita charvananam, chewing the chewed again and again. The aim of such politicians and academic scholars is to enjoy the material world with their bodily senses. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that those who are griha vrata, whose only aim is to live comfortably within the body in the material world, cannot understand Krishna. The two expressions, griha vrata and charvita charvananam, indicate that a materialistic person tries to enjoy sense gratification in different bodily forms, life after life, but is still unsatisfied. The purport continues. Srila Prabhupada ki. So, in the context of our discussion today, Sri Prahlad Maharaj, who existed in Satya Yuga and manifested his pastimes in Satya Yuga, he could have said Matinna Krishnau Paratasvatova, because he's a Vishnu Bhakta. He could have said Matinna Vishnu, referring to Vishnu, but he says Matinna Krishna Paratosvatova. Our acharyas like Srila Jiva Goswami, they comment and they mention that although Krishna's incarnation took place only in Dwapar Yuga, Krishna manifested his Leela only in Dwapar Yuga, and Prahlad Maharaj manifested his pastimes with Nrsingadev in Satya Yuga, it is impossible for Prahlad Maharaj to predict Krishna in Satya Yuga if Krishna was only appearing in Dwapar. But the fact that Krishna is ever existing, even in Satya Yuga, is revealed by the fact that Prahlad Maharaj knew about Krishna and his name millions of years before Krishna actually manifested his form. And this is why Gargacharya, while giving the name Krishna, he says, Bahuni santi namani, rupani cha sutasyate. O Nanda Maharaj, Bahuni. Bahuni means many. Santi. Santi means present tense usage. Bahuni santi namani. There are many names. Rupani cha sutasyate, and many forms to your son. But now, because he is coming in his most attractive potency, I will name him Krishna. Sri Jiva Goswami Pad says, this name Krishna existed eternally, but it only made its appearance through the lips of Gargacharya, just like Krishna is eternal, who made his appearance through Devakirani. Just like Krishna is eternal. Even before he appeared in the prison house, Krishna existed. But during that time, he made Devakirani as a medium for his appearance. Similarly, during the name-giving ceremony, Krishna's name, which is eternal and ever-existing, made his appearance through the lips of Gargacharya. This is to prove that Krishna, his name, his forms, his qualities, his pastimes, his abode and service are eternal. Even when in Satya Yuga, nobody knew about Krishna because he had not manifested his form, Krishna existed. And this is why Srila Prabhupada compares this in the mundane sense to the rising and setting of the sun. The sun is always existing, but when the sun rises, he is making his appearance within the material sense perception. So Krishna is ever existing. In Dwapar Yuga, he comes very mercifully in the purview of our sense perception. But that doesn't mean when Krishna departs, the sun sets, the sun dies. It doesn't mean when Krishna departs, Krishna is dead. Right? This is the point. So back in Satya Yuga, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, Mati na Krishna. Oh dear father, oh Hiranyakashipu. One cannot focus on Krishna if one is materially inclined. Srila Prabhupada writes in one letter in 1972. Srila Prabhupada writes, for wood to catch fire, it must be completely dry. If the wood is soaked in water and it is drenched with water, it won't catch fire. So Srila Prabhupada explains our heart or our consciousness is like wood. And the more you drench it in the water of material enjoyment, you can catch the fire of bhakti. In Vishnu Puran, there is a very beautiful verse where it says that material enjoyment is to the west and God realization is to the east. You can go west and find the rising sun. Even in the Bible, there's a statement, you can serve God and flesh with the same hand. So that's exactly what Prahlad Maharaj is saying. Oh dear Father, oh Hiranyakashipu, if you really want joy, you are looking for the east, unfortunately in the west direction. You are searching for Krishna, who is Ananda, who is joy personified, but you're doing that through scratching sense enjoyment. Now in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are three main conversations. What are the main three conversations? Who are the three main speakers in the Srimad Bhagavatam? And who are the three main listeners in the Srimad Bhagavatam? When we think of the most famous listener of Srimad Bhagavatam, who comes to our mind? Parikshit Maharaj. And who is speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to him? Shukadev Goswami. Great. So this whole conversation was heard by Suta Goswami, who repeated this whole conversation to the sages headed by Shaunaka Rishi at Naimisharanya. So we have got two pairs of speaker and listeners. But what about the first canto where Vyasa himself becomes the listener and Narada becomes the speaker? Narada Muni is the first speaker who introduces the listener Vyasa in manifesting Bhagavatam. So the first set is Narada and Vyas. Narada Muni is the speaker, Vyasadeva is the listener. The second set, the listener is the speaker is Shukadev Goswami, the listener is Parikshit Maharaj. And the third set, the speaker is Suta Goswami and the listener is Shaunaka. Fantastic. So now in this three sets that we spoke about, we'll go backwards. And in today's presentation, by Sri Jiva Goswami's kindness and his conclusion, we will see how all three pairs, Suta Shaunaka, Samvad, conversation, Parikshit, Shukadev, Samvad, conversation, and Narada and Vyas Samvad, their conversation, is only around Krishna. The whole Srimad Bhagavatam is only about Krishna. We will say, well, wait a minute. We know Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, and next week Nrsimha, all manifesting in Srimad Bhagavatam. Devotees can kindly come closer because there are other devotees coming in. This is called Elevation in Krishna Consciousness. That's a title that Srila Prabhupada gave. So let's start with the first conversation of Suta and Shaunaka. So Shaunaka Rishi, who is the first listener, he wants to know. What does he want to know? Let's read. This is with the reference. O Suta Goswami, we are eager to learn about the personality of Godhead and his incarnations. Please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous masters or acharyas, for one is uplifted both by speaking them and hearing them. So in this discussion, I would request all of us to mainly focus on the personality that they want to hear about. So in this verse, who do you think they're referring to? If you just read the translation, what's that word that comes to our eyes and our heart? Personality of Godhead, right? So not quite clear. Now if Shaunaka Rishi is telling Suta Goswami, I want to hear about the personality of Godhead, not quite clear. So now how do we know who that personality of Godhead is? Let's go to the next verse. Perhaps we may find some clue. So Canto 1, Chapter 1, text 13, and the next one would be 14. So let's see. Apanna samsritim ghoram yannama vivasho grinan tata sadhyo vimuccheta yad bibheti swayam bhayam. So in this verse, Shaunaka Rishi continues further to ask. And he says, Apanna samsritim ghoram yannama vivasho grinhan. Please tell us more about that personality, whose name, when chanted, frees one from the cycle of birth and death. So, yannama vivasho grinhan. Please tell me more about that personality, whose name, when chanted, frees one from the cycle of birth and death. So now, just by looking at this verse, what name comes to your heart? Well, we are Krishna Bhaktas, so we are kind of biased. Huh? Be unbiased and tell me, what's the name that's given in the verse? Yannama, right? We've highlighted that for open book exam. Yannama. Yannama means he whose name when chanted. Vivashogranhan. So again, not clear, because in the 13th verse we said, I want to hear more about the personality of Godhead. And in the 14th we are saying, whose name when chanted frees one from the cycle of birth and death. So any conclusion? Not quite. So now what do we do? Next verse, thank you. So we continue to dig further to see whether we can find some evidence. O Sutta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganga can sanctify only after prolonged use. So what does the first verse say? Personality of Godhead. What does the second verse say? He whose name, so Yannama, not clear. Now in the third verse, so Lord Mountbatten, right? Winston Churchill? Is that the Lord that Shaunaka Rishi wants to know about? No. So, O Sutta, that personality of Godhead whose lotus feet, when touches water, turns that water into Ganga. That Ganga purifies. But those who take shelter as sadhus at the lotus feet of that Lord, they can purify faster than the Ganga. My Guru Maharaj said, how are sadhus more powerful than Ganga? Because they say that the Ganga washes the lotus feet of Hari and flows outwards. But sadhus are always flowing inwards towards the lotus feet. Sadhus can just give one instruction, one glance and purify. But Ganga we have to bathe many times. We can say everyone who bathed in the Mahakumbha Mela came out as a pure devotee. But everyone that Mahaprabhu glanced on started horripilating in ecstatic symptoms. So here the word says, Lord. So 13 said, we want to know about the personality of Godhead. 14 said, whose name is powerful. 15 said, whose lotus feet, that Lord whose lotus feet can cause water to turn into Ganga. So any evidence is still now? Have we scratched something? Have we come across any evidence? Yes? No? Okay, what should we do now? Next verse, thank you. Let's go. 16. Prabhu, are we planning to cover 18 volumes, 12 cantos, 335 chapters like this? Text 16. Kova bhagavatastasya punya shlokedya karmanaha shuddhikamo na shrunuyat yasha kalimalapaham. That's Srila Prabhupada with disciples at Rupa Goswami's Samadhi at Radha Damodar, 1972. Vrindavan Dham, Kartik. So text 16 says, Kova bhagavatas tasya punya shloka idya karmanaha. So the word used is Bhagavata, which means again God. Next word used is punya shloka, which means that Lord who is glorified with choicest poetry, punya shloka or uttama shloka, and idya karmanaha, who performs amazing feats, merciful pastimes. Fine. Shuddhi kamaha, anybody who desires purification. Yashaha kali malapaham, hearing whose glories, Krishna's glories, cleanses the heart of all contamination. who is that person who desires freedom from such contamination, who is not ready to hear the glories of such a Lord? Ko va na shrunuyat. Who is that person who wants purification but is not ready to hear about Bhagavan, who is punya shloka idya karmanaha, glorifying whom purifies one and who performs magnanimous pastimes. Okay, so 13, we want to know about. This is Shaunaka Rishi. Okay, we are following through Shaunaka Rishi's heart. He says, Suta Goswami, please tell us about the personality of Godhead. Yannama, whose name purifies the person when chanted? That Lord, whose lotus feet can turn water into Ganga. That Lord, glorifying whom purifies the heart and who performs wonderful magnanimous pastimes. Prabhu, that's already 4 verses in. We still don't know who's being glorified. Because if you see, this glory is pretty neutral. This holds true for Vishnu, holds true for Ram, holds true for Nrsimha, holds true for Vaman, holds true for Buddha, Kalki. Okay. We haven't reached a conclusion yet, so what should we do?
Next verse.
Next verse. In fact, 17 and 18, 2 verses. Advaita Chandra, would you be able to read the...
His transcendental acts are magnificent and glorious, and great learned sages are gracious, and great learned sages like Narada sing of them. Please, therefore, speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. O wise Suta, please narrate to us the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Godhead's multi-incarnations. Such auspicious adventures and pastimes of the Lord, the Supreme Controller, are performed by his internal powers.
So in these 2 translations, please therefore sing to us, in the 4th line, who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs. Now who's that he? Not clear. So we've gone 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18, and we still are clueless who's being glorified. We want to hear about that Lord who performs many pastimes, that Lord whose name frees us, that Lord hearing about whom cleanses our heart, that Lord whose lotus feet turns water into Ganga. But who is that Lord? Is a big question mark. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 6 verses in and we still are clueless. What should we do?
Next verse.
We go next verse. You're laughing because you follow through. That's good. Vayam tu na vitripyama uttama shloka vikrame yat shunvatam rasajnanam swadu swadu pade pade. So Shaunaka Muni continues by saying, Vayam, all of us, tu na vitripyama, we are satisfied but not satiated. We are satisfied hearing about Krishna, but we are not satiated. We want more. Material life, exact opposite. We get satiated with no satisfaction. And spiritual life, exact opposite. We are satisfied at every moment, but we are never satiated. How amazing is that? So, Vayam tu na vitripyama. O Suta Goswami, we are satisfied, but we are not satiated. We want to hear. What do we want to hear? Vikrama. We want to hear. So, in Sanskrit, the word krama means steps. So, when you, pari means around. So, when we walk around in circles, that's called parikrama. Fantastic. Krama, parikrama. When the Lord takes 3 big steps, he's called 3 vikrama. Krama means step, V means very big, V for very big, and 3 means 3. So 3 very big steps, 3 vikrama. So here vikrama means big steps or sweet pastimes. where he's dancing, those are also steps. Uttama shloka vikrame. Whom are we talking about? Shaunaka Rishi says, that Lord, whom when glorified, the shlokas turn uttama. You see the word uttama shloka. Let's repeat this. Let's do louder. Yes, uttama shloka. This has three meanings. Meaning number one, uttama means best and shloka means verses. The best verses are reserved for him. Because so many poets write so many verses. But the best verses are which describe him are reserved exclusively for him. Right? The best ones are those which describe him. Second, by describing him, the person becomes uttamadhikari. By singing verses about him, he becomes uttam. The person becomes uttam. And third, ut means to go up. Tama means tamogun. Shloka, verses. By singing verses about Krishna, we go beyond tamogun and rajogun to Vishuddha Sattva. So he's called Uttama Shloka. Yat Shunvatam Rasajnanam Swadu Swadu Pade Pade. We want to hear about that Uttama Shloka. Hearing about whom at every step. Pada means step, but Pada also means words. At every word, at every step, at every stature ladder in the path of our evolution of Krishna consciousness, Swadu, we find it even more sweeter than before. Okay, we understand, but it comes back to the million-dollar question that we have been pondering on. That is it Vishnu? Is it Kurma? It's Varaha? Because we must understand Bhagavatam from all angles of vision. So let's do this again. Personality of Godhead. He whose name purifies. He whose lotus feet when touches water turns it into Ganga. Punya shloka idya karmanaha. Verses glorifying him purify us. He performs with his incarnation so many leelas in this world. And he who when glorified makes the person uttam. Go beyond tamogun. It's like decorating the pot from outside, but the pot is hollow. We don't know what we are filling in. What should we do now? Okay, let's hear from her.
Next verse.
She says next verse confidently. Do you know what's coming up next? You're actually right. It's the next verse. And in text 20, Shaunaka Rishi's question has been clarified. Kritavan kila karmani saha ramena keshavaha ati martyani bhagavan gudha kapata manushaha. So in text 20 finally, Shaunaka Rishi says, Kritavan kila karmani. Please speak about that personality. His name is Keshava. Keshava. Who is Keshava? Krishna. Because Keshava means he who killed Keshi. Now that's pretty conclusive. That's Krishna. Now if you say, well, Keshava can also be the name for Vishnu. But then the word is Saharamena. With Ram. And that Ram refers to Balaram. So Saharamena Keshava refers to Shishi Krishna Balaram. And Ati Martyani Bhagavan. Guda Kapata Manusha. And just to clarify all confusions, the last two lines says Bhagavan. Krishna and Balaram are God. But Gudha Kapata Manusha. They have concealed themselves in a deceptive human form. Guda Kapata Manusha. Good. In English, good means good. Very good. But in Sanskrit, good means very confidential. So they have concealed themselves, Kapata Manusha, in a deceptive human form. Yet at the same time, Ati Martyani. They perform pastimes which no human being can perform. Like if Bhagavan comes as Bhagavan and he drinks forest fire, nothing surprising. Bhagavan comes as Bhagavan, as Kurma, and lifts up the whole Mandara mountain, nothing surprising. But when Bhagavan comes as a human and just eats butter, Again, nothing surprising. But when he who comes as a human eating butter still picks up a hill, that is Atimartyani. He is Bhagavan, but Guda Kapata Manusha, yet Atimartyani. So he makes a rule and breaks it himself. He is God, comes as a human, and performs activities which no human can perform. Srila Sridhar Swami, in his Bhavartha Deepika commentary, he writes, here Atimartyani refers to lifting of Govardhan, dancing on the hoods of Kaliya, and casually sipping the forest fire, which no human being can. Guda Kapata Manushaha, Srila Jiva Goswami Pad has commented, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 56, Text 22, Jambavan did not recognize his own master Krishna and ended up angrily fighting him. That's the extent of Guda Kapata Manushaha. Bhagavan came and hid himself in such a mysterious concealment of a deceptive human form that even his own associates like Jambavan, who helped Ram, ended up fighting. They couldn't recognize. Now we will say, well, that's only one verse. When you have a sandwich, you have filling in the middle and bread on one side, but you need bread on the other side too. Then it's a sandwich. So you said 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then on one side you're telling me Saharamena Keshava. There must be something on the other side too. Yes, you're right. Before the conversation began, before 13 came 12. And in 12, Shaunaka Rishi is telling Suta Goswami, Suta janasi bhadram te Bhagavan satvatam patihi Devakyam vasudevasya Jato yasya chikirushaya. So in the 12th verse, Shaunaka Rishi is telling Suta Goswami, Suta, Bhadram Janasi, you very well know what I'm asking. And you have answers to all difficult questions. So my question is, I want to know about, then he says, Bhagavan, Satvatam Patihi, the protector of his devotees. I want to know about God. So naturally, Suta Goswami in his heart, because this is the first verse, he wants to know who is the Bhagavan you're referring to. So Shaunaka Rishi says, Devakyam Vasudevasya Jataha Yasya Chikirushaya. He who appeared from Devaki and Vasudeva and performed pastimes. So who do you think appeared from Devaki and Vasudeva? Shri Krishna Chandra Bhagavan ki. So in 12 and in 20, very clearly he establishes, I want to hear about Krishna, gives all the details, and at the end he seals it up by saying, I want to hear about Krishna. So who do you think Shaunaka Rishi actually wants to hear about? Only and only Krishna. This is the first chapter of the first canto. And now we come to Suta Goswami's response. Now let's see what Suta Goswami wants to speak about. Imagine if there's a conversation, the listener wants to know about Krishna, but the speaker wants to speak about Buddha. It may not be a very free-flowing conversation, because that person will say, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, and the speaker will say, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. But if they're both on the same frequency, there's going to be resonance. And that's Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is actually the frequency resonance of devotional ecstasy. So Suta Goswami now starts replying. Savai pumsam paro dharmo Yato bhakti radhokshaje Ahaitukiya pratihata Yayatmasu prasidati. So 6 questions are asked. We'll refer to that in a few moments. Suta Goswami starts answering them in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto. And he says bhakti must be ahaituki. Hetu means purpose. Ahaituki means unmotivated, no material purpose. And apratihata. Hata means to interrupt. Pratihata, interrupt again and again. Apratihata, uninterrupted. So bhakti must be ahaituki and apratihata. It must be unmotivated and uninterrupted. And it must be performed at the lotus feet of Adhokshaja. Okay. What does Adhokshaja mean? Adhokshaja is a name for Vishnu or Krishna. And what does Adhokshaja mean? It means he who is beyond sense perception. You can't hear him, you can't touch him, can't see him, right? None of this. Can't smell him. So he's beyond the senses. Well, with that name, again, it's pretty generic. Vishnu is Adhokshaja, Rama is Adhokshaja, Krishna is Adhokshaja, Narasingha is Adhokshaja. So now what should we do? We should continue searching. And as we go few verses in, Suta Goswami says, Tasmadekena manasa Bhagavan Satvatam Pati Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Dheya Pujaschya Nityada. How should bhakti be performed? Ekena manasa. Suta Goswami is answering Shaunaka Rishi by saying bhakti should be ekena manasa, one-pointed. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana. So the concept of deep work that Carl Newport came up with, a New York Times bestseller book called Deep Work. How many of us have heard of that title, Deep Work? Okay. It's quite an exciting book. If you haven't read it, it's definitely a must-read. Carl Newport is a modern-day author who speaks of the concept of shallow work and deep work. Shallow work is when you sit to work, but we're browsing on the phone, talking to someone, also answering some emails to the side, watching TV, walking around, and then coming back. That's shallow work. And he talks about exclusive deep work, where one thing at a time and that done well. Where does that come from? Ekena manasa. That's deep work right here. Right? So tasmad ekena manasa, with one pointed intelligence, Bhagavan Satvatam Patihi. Bhagavan should be worshipped. Who is that Bhagavan? Satvatam Patihi, the protector of his devotees. Who comes into your heart? Oh, you're a Krishna Bhakta, that's why. Imagine if you were a Rama Bhakta, Ramachandra. Imagine if you were Lakshmi Devi, Narayana, right? If you were Rukmini, Krishna of Dwaraka, right? So depending on the inclination, that Bhagavan Satvatampati takes a form. And what should we do for him? Shrotavyaha, we should hear about him. Kirtitavyaha, we should glorify him. Dhyeyaha, remember him. Pujaschya, and worship him once a year on Janmashtami. Nityada, da means time and nitya means always, so all the time. Now the question is, wait a minute. In text 6, Suta Goswami is saying Adhokshaja. Text 14, he's saying Bhagavan Satvatampati. Prabhu, we are not clear who Suta Goswami is referring to. And therefore, Munaya Sadhu Prishtoham. In text 6, Suta Goswami